Hi, Terri Gillespie here, and welcome to my March episode of Top Picks. And you can see I've got another great batch of new reads coming up. Keep reading. Hi, Terri Gillespie here. Yes, I am so excited about this batch of books. So, as usual, let's start with the lead book. And the lead book is the book and the author that I'll be interviewing in my April author to author interview and giveaway. So this, always do this wrong. This month it is This Promised Land by Cathy Gohlke, award-winning, best-selling, Christie Hall of Famer, and very dear friend. And I always interview Cathy Gohlke, not only because she's my friend, but she is just an incredible writer. And she doesn't disappoint with this new book. And in fact, Publishers Weekly agrees. So you'll have to check that out. So this is published by Tyndale, and it actually comes out, I think it's April. It'll come out next week, next Tuesday. So it's pre-order, because if you pre-order, you'll get the discount. You'll trying to think if there's anything else. I can't remember if there's any other giveaways that the publisher provides. And I think even Amazon has it on sale too. So if you prefer to get your book from Amazon. But just as a reminder, if you buy your books directly if you go to the publisher's website, they'll have a list of all the different retailers. So whether you do it online or whether you do brick and mortar, it's a great resource for you on the publisher's website. So if you're not familiar with Cathy Gohlke, here's a little bit about her. 4-time Christie and 2-time Carol and INSPE award-winning author Cathy Gohlke writes novels steeped with inspirational lessons from history. Her stories reveal how people break the chains that bind them and triumph over adversity through faith. When not traveling to historic sites for research, she and her husband Dan divide their time between Northern Virginia and the Jersey Shore, enjoying time with their grown children and grandchildren, and now her new fur baby, Maggie. And we'll learn a little bit more about Maggie in the interview that begins airing April 2nd. So, okay. So, here's a little bit about the book. When she ran away as a young war bride, she was cut off from the family forever. Or so she believed. Decades later, maybe the only way to move on is to go home. Okay. Here's the first paragraph in the prologue. So the prologue is in 1940, and the first chapter starts, I believe, in the 90s. Yes, in the 90s. Mid-October 1940. Wetherill Pickering's Christmas Tree Farm, New Scrivelsby, Virginia. It was late in the season. Harold hand-dug holes while Ginny followed by setting the 2-year-old bushes, filling the holes with topsoil and compost and tamping back the earth. They were both hauling water to the upper field for their biggest ever order of plantings, northern highbush blueberry bushes. When they heard the cough of the rusted green van, tailpipe smoking, a plume of red dust trailed as the van jerked to a stop in front of their two-story farmhouse down the hill. What's wonderful about Cathy's books is that she is somehow able to dig deep into tough subject matter like PTSD and, well, World War II. She's known for her World War II novels, and yet she's still able to incorporate that sense of whimsy so that it kind of lightens the load of these tough subject matter, but always there is a faith and hope message. Always. So, okay. All right. This is my second book that I've read, and by Janice Cantore. Now, Janice is a retired police officer, and I read the last book last year, and I really did enjoy it. And because she was a former cop, she has this sense about how to write crime thrillers, and she does such a good job. So this newest book is Every Deadly Suspicion, and it's published by Tyndale. And this came out this month. So you don't have to pre-order. You can order it right now and get it. So if you aren't familiar with Janice Cantore, let me tell you a little bit about her. She is a retired Long Beach police officer who now writes suspense novels to keep readers engrossed and leave them inspired. Her 22 years of experience on the force lend authenticity to her stories. Janice has penned over a dozen novels, including the Line of Duty series, the Cold Case Justice series, the Pacific Coast Justice series, and the Brenna Caruso novels, and several standalones. And this is a standalone. Okay, here's just a little sneak peek. 30 years after a federal agent and 2 suspects disappeared in the wilderness, the case is cold, and they've never been found. Now their suspected killer is about to go free. But is the truth really what it seems? So good. Okay. Another prologue. December 1990. Joe, I'm pregnant. Those 3 words had set Joe Key's world spinning. The prospect of becoming a father changed his perspective on life. He and Paula had been married for 2 years and never talked about having kids. When she told him 4 days ago that she was pregnant, he fainted, cutting his head open when he fell. Actually, that's the cutest thing about him, because the guy cooks drugs. So just to give you a little bit. Okay. Second book in the Gossamer Fall series by Lynn H. Blackburn. I just love this series. She has this way of bringing in this incredible community of family. I mean, it's very envious. I think we'd all like to have a family like that. I know some people who have families like this, so it is possible. But anyway, if you're not familiar with Lynn, she is an award-winning author of Never Fall Again, as well as the Dive Team, Investigations, and Defend and Protect series. She loves writing swoon-worthy Southern suspense because her childhood fantasy was to become a spy. But her grown-up reality is that she's a huge chicken and would have been caught on her first mission. I would have been right along with you, Lynn. She prefers to live vicariously through her characters by putting them into terrifying situations while she sits at home in her pajamas. Okay, so now this is, now Janice's book obviously was contemporary crime, suspense, and Lynn typically writes romantic suspense. And this is published by Revell, and it came out this month. So you can order it now. Okay, here's a brief summary. After too many losses, Gossamer Falls Police Chief Grayson Ward has protected his heart with walls he's been fortifying for decades. But the return of Dr. Meredith Quinn and Quinn family, they're the really cool family, changes everything. When her charity work threatens her safety, Grayson is determined to keep her safe, even if that means putting himself and his heart in danger. So far, I like this one best. So let's see here. Oh, and here's the Quinn family, and I have it earmarked here because I was constantly going back and forth and seeing who's related to whom. All right, chapter 1. No more peppermints, Mrs. Frost, or the next time it's a root canal. Mrs. Frost chortled with laughter, her veined and sun-spotted hand holding her cheek while it was still numb from the filling. Don't you get sassy with me, Dr. Quinn. She put heavily sarcastic emphasis on the doctor part of that sentence. I knew you when you were nothing but a shocked look on your mama's face. Such great characters. Great characters. I can't wait for the next book in the series. All right. Next book, The Pharisee's Wife by Janette Oake. Now this is Janet's, I think, first foray into biblical fiction. And it's set during the time of Jesus. And Janette Oake is a treasure. But I haven't read any of her books in years. I've seen movies. I've seen her movies. But so this is the first book in a long time. And there's just something, on the one hand, very simple, and I can't say sweet because she deals with some really heavy duty stuff and just heartbreaking stuff. So, but it's really a unique point of view. So if you aren't familiar with Janette Oake or Janette Oake, here's a little bit about her. Oh, it's published by Tyndale and it came out this month. Okay. Best-selling Janette Oake is credited with launching the modern era of inspirational fiction and is internationally celebrated for her significant contribution to the Christian book industry. Her novels have sold over 30 million copies, and nearly half of her more than 70 titles have been translated into 14 different languages. She is a recipient of the ECPA President's Award, the CBA's Life Impact Award, the Gold Medallion, and the Christie Award. She met her husband Edward while attending Mountain View College in Alberta, Canada. They were married after their graduation and enjoyed 64 years of marriage, 4 children, and many grandchildren and great-grandchildren before his passing in 2022. She still lives in Canada. I think she's 90 years old. I'm humbled by that. I gripe and complain about being 71, and she's still writing these incredible stories. So here's a little bit, just a little snippet about the book. Like most young women in ancient Israel, Mary has little control over her own destiny. While Enos, a rising Pharisee, sees her one day in the market, the most beautiful woman he has ever laid eyes on, and determines to make her his wife, Mary's fate is quickly sealed. His exorbitant bride price is the only hope her parents have of rising out of abject poverty, but surely the fact that such a devout and esteemed man has chosen a girl of her station must be a sign of blessing. Surely it must be a sign of blessing. Anytime, just a little hint when they eat, surely. Okay, chapter 1, the market. I love shopping at the shuk in Israel. The smells, the sounds. All right. The sun had not yet risen above the horizon, and already the day felt stuffy from the heat. The market stalls were in full voice, sellers calling out their wares with loud and irritatingly harsh shouts that they hoped would outdo their competition. Bodies, already oily from sweat, pressed against one another as they forced their way past, sharing the same limited space, breathing the same limited air. Smells from the area where the camels and donkeys were tethered were heavy with familiar but offensive odors on the stifling, breezeless air. The young woman, wending her way cautiously in and out among the harried and hurried crowd of shoppers, lifted a corner of her shawl to her nose. Understandable. Alrighty. One of my favorite authors, Nicole Deese. I actually interviewed her, and I'll put my interview. And same with Cathy. I interview her every time her book comes out. So I'll include the links to those interviews too. But Nicole is very intellectual writer. She's very thought-provoking. And this book was a little different from her other books, but I really did enjoy it. It's the last book in the Fog Harbor series, and I'm really sad because I really enjoyed that series. So, but I'm sure she's got wonderful things in the wind. So this is The Voice We Find, and it comes out in April 15th, so it comes out soon. So pre-order, and try to pre-order from the publisher because a lot of times they have discounts, and a lot of times you'll get the book before it actually is released. So, and that's kind of fun. All right, if you're not familiar with Nicole, here's a little bit about her. She is a Christie and Carol Award-winning and best-selling author. When she's not sorting out character arcs and story plots of her own, she can usually be found listening to an audiobook and multitasking at least 4 different chores at once. Well, of course, she's a woman. That's what we do. She's a hoarder of sparkling water, a lover of long walks and even longer talks with friends, and a seeker of fun and adventure at all times. She lives in a small town, Idaho, with her happily ever after hubby, 2 freakishly tall teenage sons, and 1 princess daughter with the heart of a warrior. So this is published by Bethany House Publishers, and it's considered Christian romance. And I would even say women's fiction as well, because there is definitely a strong romantic element, but there are some really important issues. And it's really fun because she explores the world of audiobooks and their production. So it's kind of neat to get a little insight into that. Here's a little summary. Sophie Wilder needs a way out of a dysfunctional family situation, and August Tate is searching for a way to support his hard-of-hearing sister. As they work together on a series of audiobooks, their initial conflict slowly grows into romance. But they will both need to listen to the voices of others and find the strength in their own. Okay, so chapter 1 is in August Tate's point of view. I duck dive the nose of my surfboard under the next breaking wave, using the same technique my dad endeavored to teach me back when I was a know-it-all punk who believed time was something to exhaust, not cherish. And back before I realized that practicing pop-ups with him at dawn wasn't a punishment, but a privilege. But I suppose that's the ugly truth about regrets. They never arrive until after it's too late. Another great book. By the way, any book that you do read, be sure and leave a review for the author wherever. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, BookBub, anywhere. It really does help the author. So, and it doesn't have to be complicated or eloquent. It can just be, I really love this book and I can't wait to read more from this author. Something simple, but we do appreciate it. So that's it for this month. I'm already starting on the next batch of books for the month of April. They're good. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again next month. But in the meantime, God bless and keep reading.